Hello, everyone. My name is Beata Leja. I'm an immigration attorney here in Chicago, and I'm joined today by Tahreem Kalam, another partner at our firm. Both of us primarily do employment-based immigration, and so the hot topic of the day and the reason why we've been on the phone all day since Monday is the newest travel ban targeting foreign workers. So, Tahreem, tell us, what is this newest travel ban about?
Sure. So Monday, after weeks of rumors, President Trump issued the latest proclamation issuing this travel ban that's targeting employment-based workers such as the H-1Bs, H-2B, J-1, and L-1 workers, claiming that this order is necessary to protect U.S. workers during this coronavirus pandemic.
And how long, as of right now, is it supposed to stay in effect?
So it began today at midnight, so midnight as of June 24th, and it's supposed to go until the end of the year, expiring December 31st, 2020. And the order did say that he may decide to extend it beyond that date as well.
And that's certainly possible because there have been other travel bans in place that have been extended by the Trump administration.
Definitely, and I think it'll come down to the results of the election on whether or not it'll be extended.
Okay, so that sounds frightening. Who's affected?
Sure. Like I mentioned before, it's many of the non-immigrant work visas that are affected. So that those are the ones on H-1B non-immigrants, H-2B non-immigrants, L-1A executives and managers, L-1B specialized knowledge workers, as well as J-1 interns, trainees, teachers, camp counselors, au pairs, and summer work travel participants. And furthermore, it includes all of their dependents and such as their spouses and their children in each of those above categories.
So everyone on these visas is affected, or are there any exceptions?
Fortunately, just because you have one of those visas doesn't mean that the proclamation is going to affect you. There are limitations to who is actually affected by this. So the order only impacts those who are outside of the United States as of June 24th, as of today, 2020, and who don't hold a valid visa stamp or travel document or advance parole with their passports as of the date of the proclamation. So, in other words, you have to be outside of the United States as of today, and you have to lack a valid visa or advance parole or travel document as of Monday. So, if you're outside of the U.S. and you're on an H-1B, but you have a visa stamp that started prior to June 22nd, you should be able to return. So it doesn't affect everybody.
So it affects people who need to apply for new visas, essentially, as of right now, but not people who previously had visas issued that have not yet expired.
Exactly. So, people who are applying for the H-1B cap from abroad for the first time may not be able to come in now because they wouldn't have a visa stamp prior to June 22nd. Companies who are trying to move an executive or a CEO or a director over for the first time, people who would essentially be hiring additional U.S. workers for their roles would be barred from entering the U.S. at this time.
Okay. Are there any other exceptions?
Yeah, so this doesn't apply to if you're in one of those categories, but you have a U.S. citizen spouse or a child, then you are presumably exempt. If you're outside the country and you do have a U.S. citizen spouse or child, and you're trying to re-enter, I would suggest carrying proof of that dependent citizenship and proof of your relationship to them, like a marriage certificate or a birth certificate. And then there's other, lawful permanent residents who are abroad are exempt from this. Employees, foreign national employees who are already in the U.S., stay in the U.S. You are currently exempt from this. Foreign nationals who have valid visa stamps or advanced paroles or other U.S. travel documents as of June 22nd, 2020, even if they are currently outside of the U.S. when the ban took effect, should be able to come back in, presuming one of the other travel bans doesn't apply to them. And J1 exchange program participants other than interns, trainees, teachers, camp counselors, au pairs, and summer work travel participants are exempt, and also foreign nationals that are entering to provide some sort of temporary labor or services that are essential to the U.S. food supply chain could be exempt from this. So they didn't provide specifics on what that may be, but that was the broad idea of who is exempt.
So I think some of the biggest misconception right now, and a lot of the calls that we've been dealing with over the last few days are, the media has reported this, as having, canceled all employment visas. All H-1Bs are affected, but really in practice, again, individuals who are on an H-1B, on an L-1, on a J-1, on an H-2B in the United States, they can remain in the United States, continue working in the United States, file extensions of their status in the United States. That this is effectively just a travel ban that prohibits a small subsection of individuals from being able to re-enter the United States if they don't have an already issued visa or travel document. Similarly, it does not apply to all employment-based non-immigrant visa categories. So Canadians and Mexicans coming on TNs, Australians coming on E3s, individuals from Singapore, Chile coming on H-1B1, religious workers, athletes, individuals who have extraordinary ability, they're not affected by this particular travel ban.
Yeah, and Beata, you made a good point that, when you're on one of the listed banned visas, that you can still pursue those extensions in the US. So, I've seen a lot of employees and employers worried that the status is about to expire. They were going to travel to get their status extended. And now they won't be able to. Well, we can file in the US. So their statuses can be extended in the US without needing to depart the US. So if you're already here in the US, like Beata said, just think of it as a travel ban. You just stay in the US for now, and you'll be able to remain in work authorization through US CIS extensions.
Mm-hmm.
So, Beata, if someone is impacted, can they seek a waiver if they're in one of those categories to enter the US?
Well, the way that the order was issued, arguably, yes. It does provide guidance on individuals who would arguably qualify for a waiver. And so those include individuals who are coming to facilitate continued economic recovery of the United States, coming to work in COVID treatment or prevention, or critical to the defense, law enforcement, diplomacy, or national security of the United States. Those are broad descriptions of who would arguably be able to apply for a waiver. The problem is, if we look at the other travel bans, starting with the Muslim travel ban from 2017 and its various iterations that have come out, in practice, waivers of a travel ban are incredibly difficult to secure. We currently don't have any information about how likely a person would be able to obtain such a waiver. But again, if we look back at other similar waivers, it's nearly impossible to seek such a waiver. So only time will tell whether or not, these are, for example, if a company really does need to bring in a high-level executive, and whether, that person's ability to impact the economic recovery of the United States is a compelling reason enough to waive this ban.
Mm-hmm.
But arguably, yes, there are waivers for those who are affected.
And to obtain those waivers, they would presumably have to apply for them at the consulates, which have been closed due to COVID since March. So that is a reason many people are already stuck abroad.
Right, which is why what makes this ban less impactful, I think, is that it coincides with a time when the consulates are closed. And so, it's unclear whether or not it will realistically delay the cases of some people. I mean, I think there are certainly people who will be delayed as a result of this travel ban alone, but because the consulates many are still not yet reopened, and those that are reopened are only scheduling, a few appointments here and there and pushing other appointments to next year already. It may be that, again, because these are running sort of concurrently, an individual's case may not necessarily be impacted by this travel ban per se.
So does this order impact USCIS's processing of the H-1Bs filed towards the fiscal year 2021 H-1B cap petitions?
No, like you said, it doesn't affect USCIS at all. This is a travel ban that prevents the consulates from issuing new visas in these categories. So USCIS will continue to process those H-1B applications that have been filed and that will be filed in this week and finishing up by the end of next week. But what could happen is if those individuals are waiting outside of the United States for their approval, and if they get their approval, presumably before the travel ban, they could have gotten their visa stamped and come to the United States as early as October 1st. And again, at this time, because of the consulate closures and because of this ban being in effect, they will not be able to get those visas until at least next year. But again, because of the consulate being closed, we're not even sure that had they been able to, without this travel ban, they would have been able to get an appointment ahead of next year anyway.
Right. And you spoke about, how this ban doesn't affect TNs, Canadians and TNs, but what about other Canadians who are wishing to enter the U.S. on one of the listed visas, like the H-1B or the L-1 or J-1 or H-2B?
So that remains unclear. The way that the order is worded, it limits entry pursuant to one of these visas. And Canadians are visa exempt. And so an argument can be made that because they're visa exempt, they're not coming pursuant to a visa, and so they're not affected by this. But it could also be read in a way where, visa is symbolic of their status, the requested status. And so I think it's unfortunately unclear. I think Customs and Border Protection will have to come up with guidance probably very soon, because they're going to start encountering these requests starting today, on how, whether or not they believe that Canadians coming in on H-1B, H-2B, L, or J status are affected. But we, as of right now, don't yet know.
Yeah, and I hear us using the words visa and status and H-1B visa, and I find that, that terminology can get confusing. So when we are referring to visa, we're saying the visa stamps in your passports. Mm-hmm. And Canadians don't require that visa stamp in their passport. And that stamp is essentially a travel document. So the consulates are not issuing new travel documents, so new visa stamps, which is what is preventing entry into the U.S., despite the fact that you may have that status approved already. You just can't use it to travel into the U.S. because they will not issue you a new visa stamp. We did mention earlier that people in the U.S. are in a great position because they're not affected by this, other than the fact that they can't travel. But this order is through December, so it's going to go through the holidays, and people want to see their family members. So it is, just make sure that you talk to your immigration attorneys and understand the implications of what that travel might mean for you, for your time outside the U.S., for your employment, for your status. There's a lot at play here, because it's, again, also not just this travel ban. So Beata, do you have any final words for our clients and their employers?
I think, unfortunately, to echo what you said, we are recommending that people avoid international travel if they can. And by people, I mean foreign nationals who are not permanent residents or naturalized U.S. citizens, because, I think this is a taste of what's more to come. There have been various travel bans issued recently, some related to, I think, safety measures because of where there have been outbreaks. But others, like the immigrant visa travel ban from April, which has now been extended until the end of the year, and this, foreign worker travel ban, there may be others, and we can't really predict when a travel ban may occur, who's going to be affected by such a travel ban, and the courts are largely powerless to stop it. And again, waivers of such travel bans are difficult to come by. We don't know, again, how likely it is to get one with regard to this particular travel ban, but it will be challenging. So, we are encouraging people to avoid international travel as much as they can. But of course, consult with us or another immigration attorney if you absolutely need to travel to determine if you are subject to this travel ban, another travel ban, to figure out whether it's wise to depart the United States or to plan around, the expectation that you may need to be outside of the United States for a while.
Right.
Anything else that you'd like to add, Tahreem?
No, just I think the most important thing is that before you do anything, planning any international travel, that you really think about talking to an immigration attorney to find out those consequences.
Yeah, and for the people who are in the United States, don't panic. Again, this does not affect you. So we hope that this presentation alleviated some of your concerns. And if you have any questions for us, feel free to call us or email us. Our phone number is 312-427-6163. Thank you.
I just wanted to mention just one more thing about the green cards. If you're going through the employment-based green card in the U.S., that's continuing.
Yeah.
I think there was some language in one of the orders that says they're thinking about making it harder, but that is all they have said. Nothing has come out to, tell us any sort of timeline or any sort of changes in that process. So for now, just keep going as you are. Okay.
Yeah, and those changes that are proposed in this proclamation would have to go through a regulatory process where there would be, proposed regulations, a comment period, and, having seen how this process works in the past, it is a slow process with a lot of transparency, at least initially, so there would be a lot of time to sort of plan around it if there were other further changes.
Okay. Well, thanks, Beata, and we hope this video was helpful.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.